Hello and welcome to the 1912 Exiles podcast, the original, the biggest, the best Newport County podcast made by the fans, for the fans, brought to you as ever by the Terrace Cymru podcast network and in association with the Riverside Sports Bar in Newport, home of great food, great burgers, live sport. If you've not been before, this is your New Year's resolution for the season ahead. Go along and sample a Riverside burger. You will not be disappointed. Welcome to episode 284 of the pod, which, we had to do it. We had to call it Mullin it over after Newport County appointed Hayden Mullins as new manager today. I'm Ed, and I'm joined to discuss the managerial appointment and give some reaction by our man on the Northern Beat, Mr. Ian Street. Hello, Ian.
All right, Ed. How's things? Sunny up here?
It's beautiful down here as well. How is the weather where you are, Jack Halpin, our curmudgeon and all-round grumpy egg?
Get sick of this drought, Ed. It's very dusty. I have to wash my car, once a week. I'm not used to that. I'm used to the rain doing the work for me. Other than that, looking forward to the rain next week. Bring it on. My shrubs need some watering.
There you go. You heard it here first, listeners. Spare a thought for Jack's shrubs. Right. We're doing a quick and dirty pod to do some reaction to the Mullins appointment today. So I will invite our panel in a moment to give their thoughts and reactions to his appointment. We've got a bit of insight from one of his previous clubs. I've got some stuff that listeners have been saying about the appointment. We'll then explore some of what we might expect tactically, what might be at the top of his inbox, and then we'll finish with a few grumbles and groans. But, boys, get us up and running. Ian, Age Before Beauty, what did you make of the news that came out at 9:15 this morning that Hayden Mullins has been appointed the new manager of Newport County?
My overriding thing was, thank God we made a decision, because I did feel that we felt a little bit limbo-ish for a while from when Fuchs left. I know that we only put Todd in as interim manager or interim coach or whatever the title was. So the implication was always that we were looking to bring somebody in. But I also, it wasn't clear that was what was happening. So I think we were all looking at it. Well, is it? We can just give it to Todd. Is he just going to carry on with it? Are we bringing somebody in? What? So I think that uncertainty has been put to bed, and I'm all for that. I'm like, a decision has been made. Great, let's get on with it. Is my overriding thing that at least we know now who is leading us into the season. Yes, there's work to be done before we start that season, as I'm sure we'll all get into. But my overriding thing was, at least a decision has been made. New guys in to get behind him.
Do you think that we might have been better? I mean, none of this is perfect, right? Because we as fans say we want to have a proper, thorough recruitment process and make sure we appoint the right person rather than the first person who's available. But of course, the flip side of that is that process takes a long time, as has been the case here. And we now get to the point where we're saying, well, we've only got just over a week till the first competitive game. This is disruption at the time when we maybe need it the least. Maybe we'd have been better off just, giving it to Todd as as manager and having some continuity. Like either of those are defensible viewpoints, right? So where do you land on? I mean, obviously, if we could go back and run the summer again, you'd either want Fuchs to not quit or you'd want him to quit a lot earlier. But given he quit when he did, do you think we've done the right thing by having that long recruitment process? Or do you think maybe it's stretched on too long and it's maybe weakened us at the wrong moment?
I'm quite happy with the fact that we've taken a little bit of time to pause and have a bit of a think, which is what I'm hoping has happened. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you've got to remember where we are as a club and who our recruitment, how attractive are we and who we can get. You've got to factor all of those things in. We can't go, oh, Eddie Howe's left, let's get him. Do you know what I mean? So we've got to be really realistic around that. We can. And I'm on the assumption that the powers that be didn't know Fuchs was going, then, to to just turn around on the Monday and go, "Oh, here's our new person," I think would not have been very good. I think there has to be an investigation to try and work out who's going to be the best fit both ways. The manager's got to fit with us, we've got to fit with the manager. I think that those conversations have to take place. You've got to do your due diligence around that. And I think as football fans, we're hilarious, aren't we? Because we always want it, jam tomorrow, and we want everything to have happened yesterday. But all of us who work in the real world also know that recruitment's not necessarily a straightforward exercise, and getting the absolute person you want, tomorrow doesn't work like that. And I think that I'm hoping that Hughes and whoever has been working with him on this, has had a little cast around, has had, talked to people, he's interviewed people, he's had a look at, where the fit's going to be. And, he's kissed a few frogs, hasn't he? Hopefully this one's his prince.
Yeah. And as you say, with recruitment processes, there'll be some people who come in who look great on paper and, would be great appointments, but actually they aren't willing to come in and work for what you might be willing to pay them, or for the budget that you might give them to spend on, and that's just as true in normal office jobs as it is for football management. Equally, there might be people who come in, looks good, you've got an agreement in principle, then suddenly they get offered a better job somewhere else. And again, that happens in the real world as well, and it maybe has happened to us. So these things don't go in straight lines. Where are you on all of this, Jack? What's your hot take?
I think in response to that, we are squarely in this position because of the Fuchs surprise, right? So you have to forgive all the sins and table that frustration, because Fuchs left when he left. It was a massive bombshell, caught us all by surprise, and now we, clatter about and try and find someone. It is a bit of that in between, and fans sort of thinking, who is it? Presenting names, rumours coming from Twitter, left and right, county chat, who is it? That's been the frustrating bit, is because we don't know who was on that shortlist. We can have wishes, and some of them sounded really good. I think my big distraction going in to this morning was having my head full of Mayer toys, Kevin Mayer, right? So he had won the FA Trophy, beaten Wheelstone, made the Raider really angry. He had really good pedigree, and we talked in the private chat that we had in WhatsApp, said, well, we're really excited by this guy. Maybe not so much as Hayden. And when it comes to frogs, he'll be the fifth we've kissed. So we've given James Rowbury a kissy. He was an academy manager. We've given Hughes another go. Give him a kiss from Manchester. Brilliant. Jardim did a bit of Swansea. He was a coach. Give him a kissy. That didn't work either, did it? Didn't turn him into a front prince. And Fuchs was an academy manager. I know he used to play in the Premier League, but he's still an academy manager. So on the trend line, I know we got a position higher than what we did the season before, and that's what Hugh Jenkins, that's what he said is his driving force, right? We need to get up. The same for everyone else, right? This club has to go up in position, and yes, technically he achieved that. Not really. We were on our ass until 30 minutes to go until the final whistle, right? I don't see last season as an improvement, and trying to kiss these frogs, right? I think is probably the centerpiece as to why. Now, absolutely, I wish to be surprised. I want Hayden Mullins and will support Hayden Mullins unconditionally until hopefully never. But that's, who knows if that'll be the case. And can we gamble? Maybe we have to, because of budget, because of attractability, because the fact that we're in Newport and all these good managers live far-flung places. Maybe that was why Fuchs actually left. We still don't really know. He said it on basis of the normal PR jargon that managers talk. It's hard to tell what they actually mean. But, we're not the best prospect. We're not the most attractive club for these managers. So it's in the middle of that. You just need to remember, as hard as it is that you're a fan and you're here to support unconditionally until it's untenable. And I hope those days don't come this season. But like I said, this is the fifth time doing this now. Surely to God, there was someone in that pool that, I know we need experience on the pitch, but surely we need experience in the management side as well. I'm a bit scared. I'm a bit scared.
I get that, and part of me agrees with it, but part of me also thinks that, I know, you're bringing Roby in here, and you know what I think, what I think of James Roby. So, but I mean, that's way before Hugh's time, isn't it? And we lurched from him to Coughlin, and we started bouncing back and forward. I think that one thing's, for me, is pretty clear from the way Hugh's going about his business, rightly or wrongly, is that he's looking for untapped value, isn't he? Both in terms of players generally and in terms of management / coach, now, and that's why I sort of brought in the kissing the frog metaphor, because I think that's, if we can't attract someone who's uber successful and has already done it and all the rest of it, it's unlikely we're going to get that. So I think I can understand what Hugh is trying to do in this. I think that, we might come on to this, but Mullins has managed, before. He has managed in this league. So he's not completely naive, wet behind the ears. He's been an assistant. He's done some caretaking in the championship. So, yes, he's primarily a coach. And I think in his interview when he started, he talked about himself being a head coach. So I think that is the model rather than manager. I think he's head coach. But he has got more experience than some of the recent people. So, maybe there's a little bit more nuance there, a little bit more balance, perhaps.
Yeah, and for those of you who maybe aren't experts on Hayden Mullins and haven't done him as your mastermind subject, here is what you need to know. So he was a defensive midfielder, played most of his career at Crystal Palace, played over nearly 200 games for West Ham, over 100 games for Portsmouth, so 600 senior pro games, played a few games at England under 21 as well. And then after his retirement from football, he was involved at Watford under 23s, had a couple of spells as caretaker at Watford, managed at Colchester, and we'll come on to his lengthy spell there. That's been his only really lengthy spell managing a professional club. He's also managed the Turks and Caicos Islands, and most recently at Fulham under 21. So that's a potted history of the man. And we asked our Colchester counterparts at the Barside, Beyond the Barside podcast, to tell us a little bit about what we could expect based on his time there. They gave us quite a lengthy explanation. I'll read it because I think it's a really good balanced account of his time there. And, this is going back kind of 5 years, but it's interesting. So this is what they said. When I shared the news in our group that Hayden Mullins was among the favourites for the Newport County job, the first reply arrived almost instantly. That's my relegation pick confirmed then. It was tongue-in-cheek, but perhaps a reaction that reflects how many Colchester United supporters remember his time at the club. Mullins arrived at Colchester in September 2020 as assistant manager to Steve Ball before continuing in the role under Wayne Brown. And then following Brown's departure, Mullins took charge on an interim basis and enjoyed an impressive spell, guiding the U's through a strong run of results that earned him EFL Manager of the Month nomination and ultimately the role on a permanent basis. But unfortunately, that promising start proved difficult to sustain. His first full summer transfer window saw a significant recruitment drive centred around experienced professionals. While some made an immediate impact, others failed to justify their reputations, leaving the squad feeling unbalanced and at times lacking direction. They go on to say there were positive moments, but they were too few and far between. More than anything, there always seemed to be a disconnect between the management team and the supporters, creating an atmosphere that felt subdued for much of his tenure. But more positively, they said football is rarely straightforward. Since leaving Colchester, Mullins has continued his coaching journey at Fulham, where he's enjoyed considerable success with the club's under-21 side in one of the country's most highly regarded academy environments. Those experiences may well have broadened his managerial skill set, and it would be unwise to assume his first spell in League Two will define his future. Newport may be appointing a coach who is significantly better prepared than the one Colchester United supporters remember. And I thought that was a really interesting set of reflections. Like I say, it was balanced and objective. And I think it does reflect this point that, we often talk on the pod about how when you get players who are doing their first loan spell, it's often an odd time because they're having to get used to being around professionals whose careers depend on getting that result every weekend. They're having to train differently. It is a different mentality from academy stuff. Likewise, I think most managers, that first spell managing a professional team, they learn a lot from it. And so for me, it's not so much about how did you do at Colchester in a spell when they were a bit of a basket case off the pitch. It's more, what has he taken from that? And that's not to kind of sugarcoat the appointment in any way, but if on the back of that he has learned some useful lessons and he's applied those in the coaching that he's done at Fulham with the youth team, where he's clearly been very effective, then, to come back to the points you were making, if we're fishing in the sort of pool for managers that we are fishing in, maybe that's as good an appointment as we might have hoped. Any thoughts on that, either of you?
I mean, I think the one thing is that on the Colchester side, I think that is a really balanced thing from their fans there. I think the other thing we often talk about, you talk about loan players coming and fit, and that one of the things I often talk about is fit. And we'll have a situation where Cam Norman's come, the Tranmere fans are laughing at us. Baker Richards gone there, we're laughing at them, right? Now, some players fit well in at a club, right? And I think the same for managers. So when he took over at Colchester, he was going from interim. He was basically shoved into the job because a personal place had been booted out. That's not necessarily your fault. You're just taking it because it's there, isn't it? It's not necessarily an active, choice that's being made between two parties there. And my understanding at the time, without knowing the full history of Colchester United, that the club at that time over there was not. They've alluded to that a little bit in their thing. Was not a happy place. So that was probably a bit of a baptism of fire that he got given there. So I'm not convinced that just because he didn't set the world alight at Colchester when they were in a bit of a shambles is a you can't judge somebody on that, can you? That's madness.
And on the speculative point, if he I go back to my earlier points in podcasts long ago, is that I thought I'm getting sick of these speculative investments. My feeling was that you get these people in just in case they do really, really well, and then you could command a really big fee then, if he does really well, to a club above that really wants him. But the nature of how football works and the amount of managers that come in and out of clubs, there's always going to be a really viable candidate that you're not going to have to buy out of a contract. So I don't really buy that he's a speculative investment. I think it's probably more to do with that attractability piece about who we can actually get and target that's within our budget, and also fits that strange mold, maybe not strange in today's football standards, of having a director of football that navigates your scouting network and then the chairman that pretty much tells you who you can buy and who you can't buy, which is maybe, because of the money or maybe because of the way that Hugh wants to play. I don't know. But we know that that's a factor because, Toddy in the interview post-game at Reading was asked, who do you need to bring in? And he just said, well, it's up to the boss, isn't it? So it's another mold that Hayden's got to fit. But that what you said and what the Colchester person had said, it tracks with Fulham's academy and the people that follow the under-21s, because Twitter is littered with people saying massive loss, big miss, sad day, huge loss, did a very good job. So he's a very competent person. Hopefully it works.
Go on, Ian. You were about to jump in.
I was about to jump in on the recruitment stuff because I think, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I think it's something really interesting. So we're all going, well, he was making the choices, it's you, and whatever Toddy said. But I think it's really interesting that we didn't make a single signing after Fuchs was booted out, right? So we had 10 or 11 lined up, which my understand from what I heard, that was they were off Fuchs's list, right? So, I I'm not a Hugh apologist, but I think that actually there's some learning that's gone on there, probably from the early days. He thought Fuchs was in for the period. Right, who do you need? How are we going to work this? What are we going to do? Are we going to, let's start bringing these players in. Then Fuchs goes out the door. If it was just Hugh doing the stuff, we'd have been signing more players, in my view.
Yeah.
We've paused all of it at this point so that we get Hayden in. Part of the conversation, I'm sure, with Hayden will have been, right, this is who we've currently got. What, you're going to get some space. We're going to have to bring some more in. We'll talk about that because we are. But I think it's really good, actually, that Hugh must have known he wasn't going to stick with Todd. He's been quietly doing his business. Right, who are we bringing in? We're not signing anybody until we've got the new person in to give them the fair shot of who else can we do to strengthen the team. So I think it's more nuanced, is I guess what I would say about that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also think in some ways, actually, this is where you need the incoming person, Mullins, to show his coaching skills, right? Because he's got a whole load of players who've just signed contracts who weren't his picks, but he's now got to get the best out of them. So, in this specific sense, you need someone who can work with what's in the building and make them better players and make them fit a system. His decisions as a manager, as someone who's going to choose players who come in, he will clearly get some money to spend. We've still got 5 loan places to fill, and maybe there'll be 1 or 2 permanents as well. Who knows? But I'll be really interested to see how he gets on coaching some of those players who come in who were Fuchs signings. And I think for me, if there was one criteria that maybe was really particularly important to fill with this, it would have been someone who can do that, who can coach a load of players who maybe went, well, hang on, I signed for the previous guy and he left before pre-season training started. I'm going to come on in a moment to talk about tactics. But just before I do that, let's just have a look at a few listener reactions. There were 2 overwhelming things that came through, and Jack's touched on both of them. One was this sense that, he's here now, he's ours, so we'll get behind him and give him our best support. And also people saying, look, it's a gamble, but everything's a gamble. So there were lots of comments along those lines. But I picked out 4 other things here. So friend of the pod, the venerable Mark Vickery said, his coaching pedigree looks decent, but we need a solid assistant. Is that going to be Todd? Just hope Mullins knows 4th division football is different from kids football and does better than his 10 months at Colchester United. I think we can safely assume that keeping Chris Todd in the setup was a kind of prerequisite of the job. That may have put some people off, but I think probably there is an acceptance that we need some continuity. So I should imagine that Todd will be confirmed as an assistant, assuming that the 2 of them are happy to work together. The second comment we had was from Hoyligan, who asked, any chance one day we will appoint a manager of our football club who is an actual manager, e.g. not a youth team or age grade coach? I wish him all the best, but if he's still in post when the Christmas tree is coming down, I'll be amazed. Jack is doing a chef's kiss for those of you listening rather than watching the YouTube. Taff from the Amber Army said this was a very Anthony Hudson feel. Someone who failed previously but has maybe learned from the experience, gained better knowledge, and went on to have a successful career in international football. And I guess that's the point I was making, that it's what he learned from that first difficult spell that will define him. And SJJ on Blue Sky, I thought was really interesting. He did get a Premier League 2 Manager of the Year with Fulham, so that's a positive. Maybe some interesting loans coming up too. And yes, it'll be interesting to see whether we can get 1 or 2 of his Fulham kids in to join the squad. Jack, I'm going to come to you to talk tactics because there was one element of the interview that Hayden Mullins did with the club that particularly interested you. So I'm going to put this up now. It's about a minute's worth of audio, and then you can tell us your reaction. So let's hear from the man himself.
The fans always want to know, what can they expect to see from a Hayden Mullins team? What's the identity and style you want to build at Rodney Parade?
I want to build a fast attacking football team, and I want us to be aggressive out of possession. I'm not going to come here and be a tippy-tappy manager. I'm not going to bring a brand of football which fans will come here and be bored with. I want us to be aggressive with the ball. I want us to be front-footed. I want us to play in areas of the pitch where the opposition leave the space, whether that is in behind them, whether that is in front of them. I want us to cross the ball. I want us to have a real threat in front of the opposition's goal. And I want to put pressure on the opposition when they come here. I think when they come to Rodney Parade, they should feel under pressure. It shouldn't feel a nice place to come and play football. And I think my teams hopefully reflect that this season.
So, Jack, what did you like about that?
No tippy-tappy football. Excellent. Thank you. We don't need to replicate the Premier League. We don't need Guardiola ball. We don't need it. That's not League Two football. That's not our strengths. And it never has been. And what's really nice is he segues it into a time when we were unbeatable at home. Just felt like there was a feeling under Flynn, and it carried on a little bit after that. I hate the terminology fortress. Turn it into a fortress, because that's been captured by every Twitter account run by an official person of every account everywhere. But it was true. Look, it was a fortress, and you could not beat us there without really huffing and puffing and kicking us down. And there's a little sign of the same happening now with the squad that we've got. So when I went to go and watch Reading and the pre-season game not too long ago, a lot of the complaints from the Reading side and the fans was that we were really physical, surprisingly physical. They weren't so glowing about the fact that, our chances of staying up this season. But, like I said in my report, excuses at the ready. It's pre-season, who cares? Like, it's not reflective. And as we saw when we did that little piece about asking fans about what they thought would happen in the preseason, it never ends up happening anyway. So how can you take it at all seriously? You don't know what's going to go on. But for Hayden to say that sort of language without having seen, I'm sure he's seen a few matches, but there's a nice little parity towards the themes that I saw in preseason against Reading and what he needs to achieve. And I think 100%, if there's one thing I'm on board with, is making Rodney Parade as miserable as possible, because teams have had it way too easy at home for the last 2 seasons, and that's got to change.
Yeah, and I guess if nothing else, a former defensive midfielder himself is going to know that you have to earn the right to win games, right? Go on, Jack, briefly, and then I'll bring Ian in.
Yeah, well, he kept Mascherano at that side at West Ham, so
that tells the story.
He's got pedigree, isn't he?
Yeah. So, Ian, I mean, this talking about that need for a bit of nous, a bit of guile, a bit of S-housery, it sort of brings us neatly onto that point about what's on top of his inbox. I know a lot of us still think we need that kind of midfield bastard who we've talked about, and are maybe hoping that Hayden Mullins will be cognizant of that. Is that what's top of your shopping list in the remaining weeks of the window, or where are you on all of this?
Well, I'll come on to my shopping list, but I just want to talk about the tippy-tappy thing incredibly briefly, because that's possibly the one thing he could have said that will unite the entire Newport County fan base. Because for the last 2 years, I've watched us pass the ball along the back line, aimlessly, pass it back to the keeper, and then shanks it out of play. No one in Newport wants to watch that, do we? That's not what we're about. So he's already united the fan base by saying no tippy-tappy football. If we can push on with that, we'll all be happy. Right, top of his inbox. I've been thinking quite a lot about this, because we've got obsessed, haven't we, with the midfield bastard thing, right? And I'm saying, right, well, let's just put that to one side for a minute. Let's be serious, right? Because, right, that depends on how you want to play. And this is what I've been thinking about. So I'm linking into the tactics truck and tippy-tappy stuff here. If you want to play, which is what we've been lining up recently, 4-2-3-1, right? You don't need a midfield bastard, actually, right? Because those two midfielders are very different, right? Because they're a double pivot, right? So that if you're going to play a double pivot, then those players have to be able to do 2 things, right? They've got to be able to be defensive shields, which isn't just kick people, right? They've also got to be able to take the ball on the half turn from the back, and they've got to be able to progress it quickly. They've got to be good passers, because they've got to get the ball to the front 4, which is effectively what you've got, right? And that's why, with the best will in the world, right, Kieran Brannan and Cam Evans cannot possibly play in a double pivot, because they don't have the technical abilities to do that, right? And if we briefly flip back last season, when Braybrook and Matt Smith, about the 3 games they were fit, they can play a double pivot, because they can do the shielding work. They don't have to be this like hard man. You can do the shielding work, That's positional, right? It's not about sticking feet in, but then you can get on the ball and you can progress it quickly forward with good passing, right? That's if we're going to play double pivot. If you're going to play a 4-4-2 or 3 in there, a 4-3-3 or a 5-3-2, if you're only playing the 3 or the 2 in there, then you need someone like a Hayden Mullins or a Josh Labadie, right? So it depends upon the style of midfield we're going to play and the formation we're going to play as the type of player we need to put in there. So I think we need to stop saying we need a midfield bastard, because it depends on the type of midfield we're going to play.
I have some slight quibbles with this. I mean, firstly, on his day, I think Cam Evans
Only slight.
On his day, I think Cam Evans can sometimes do that, but it was only at the very end of the season that I think we saw him. I'm getting heads shaking at me. Okay, we'll come back to that. I'm with you on Kieran Brennan. That's not his bag. I mean, I think when we saw Biggins and Sprangler as a pair last season, that looked quite good to me. You know, Sprangler, I think, was the sort of player who neatly segued the midfield bastard into that ball playing kind of midfielder who can take it on the half turn. So I guess that's, you know, in that sense, we're probably talking about sort of the same thing. So my question then, Ian, if a midfield bastard is not the top of your shopping list, what is at the top of your shopping list?
Well, the top of my shopping list is sort the midfield out, but it depends on what midfield structure you're going to play, right? That's all I'm saying. Midfield, we're desperately lacking. So either alongside or behind Biggins has to be the number one priority. We need a couple of bodies in there, don't we? Definitely, right?
Yeah.
So that is the number one for me. I don't know how long James Kroll's out for, right? But possibly up front we need somebody. And again, this comes down to how we're going to play. Have we got the width that we need?
Yeah.
But again, what's the formation going to be? So I think the signings need to fit the formation, and that's key. Ideally, I'd have another centre back. I think we need a left back cover, or first team and Tom Davies to come through. But for me, if we can only bring in, say, 3 first teamers and the rest have got to be loans, let's say for sake of argument, then I would be bringing in 2 midfielders and a centre forward.
Yeah, I think I'm broadly in the same space, that I think we need a creative midfielder, whether that's a winger or someone more central, depends on the system. And I think we do need someone who can be a bastard or a ball carrier, or, you know, a mountain goat, whatever, choose your analogy. And those are probably the 2, if we've got 2 permanent signings, they're the ones who need to be the permanents or season-long loans with experience. I think the left-back cover that we need, possibly the centre-back cover that might be helpful, you know, we can afford for those to be young loanees from academies, but I think the midfield ones need to be kind of oven ready. What about you, Jack? If you were advising Hayden Mullins, if he said, "Come on, Jack, I need you to tell me what should be at the top of my shopping list when I go to speak with you," what are you giving him?
Sammy Braybrook, miss that guy. Because he used to just he's a bit like a quarterback, wasn't he? Just follow the ball. It was in his cone of view, and he would just sweep it and send it wherever he wanted. It was a joy to watch, but it depends on the style that we're going to go with. And does anyone know what formation he played, as in Hayden played with at Colchester? No. Do we know what his style and his system was at under 21 level? Irrelevant. So no one knows. Is he just going to come in and assimilate and sort of carry on that squad building towards a 4-2-3-1? My sense is no, because if I brought in to be a head coach, then I want to put my own stamp on it. Can you be as aggressive as you'd like to be in a 4-2-3-1? Do you go old school 4-4-2? And I don't know. It's exciting, but yes, centre mid needs a bit of bolstering depending on the play style. The biggest sin for last season was just mistakes. So most of that coming from fluffy, stuffy passes at centre back, right? So that tells me there's not enough outlet for those centre backs or protection. So it comes from centre midfield. They need more protection. And then the other one I'd say is I love Joe Thomas to bits, and I think he's got lots of potential. but I think he is definitely a sore scouting point. Whenever he played, it just seemed that every time I watched us live at Roddy Parade or otherwise, it just seemed to be that it was either the left back or right back, because they knew those were both weak points. And then anytime they saw him on the squad sheet, they would just strong arm the one side and kill it. He's not yet physical enough to deal with it. We saw it at Reading as well. He got into a few bits of afters. He was easily bundled off the ball, and League Two can be quite physical, can't it? That's the reputation of that league. So I would like to give him a bit of support. He doesn't have to miss every game. He still needs to develop, but someone that could do it, because there was a massive difference when Cam Norman flitted into right back. He was bombing forward. He had no issues bombing through people. And a lot of the corners and possession and chances that we got were because we had a stronger right back, and it was immediate. So not a long list, Ed, but it's.
I mean, again, so much is going to depend on the system we're playing, and this again, it comes back to what we said right at the start, that if you were trying to work out the perfect way to appoint a manager, you wouldn't start from here, right? Because he's got 2 games in which to work out what his best system is with what's in the building. One of those is against Roma, so good luck trying to come up with something from that, Connie.
But I think this is the thing, isn't it? Right, he's coming late, right? So it's going to take him a few games to get. We're not going to suddenly turn up a Rochdale where everything's going to be perfect in the thing. It's going to take a few games, isn't it? We're going to have to accept that because of the nature of the beast of the timings. What we want to see is some judicious signings over the next few weeks. It's going to help us so we can see progress is being made. Because actually before Fuchs went, I do think there was a bit of nous into some of those signings. We were looking a little bit more balanced. We brought in some more experience. We got experience up front, experience at centre back, experience at right back, experience in midfield, right? So that's different from the pure Hugh Ball stuff from the previous season, right? And then we've augmented that with some of the Hugh Ball signings. I'm all right with that. But obviously, we paused it when Fuchs went. So now we need to restart that. We do need more bodies in the building. And I think that if we don't do that, and we stay with where we are, for example, then it doesn't matter if it was Pep Guardiola in charge, right? No manager could do it without the requisite level of player. And that's going to be critical. We need 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 first team players in this squad. And then we need some loans. And hopefully, like a few have said, it'd be great to have some of his decent, either Fulham ones, or the fact that he's managed in the Premier League for the last few seasons at that level. He should know everybody at that level that's any good. Can we get, a Ben White? I'd rather have two or 3 of Ben Whites than 5, Adam Lewis's. Do you know what I mean?
Chankazimbas. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So let's just let's be judicious in what we're trying to do here, and let's get the right people. Let's get the the round pegs in the round holes for once.
Sounds good. Right, we've done nearly 40 minutes, so we are coming towards the end of it. But I want to finish with some shout outs and beefs. Jack, you're never a man short of a beef, or indeed a shout out, to be fair to you, so you can kick us off.
Well, it's on thematics, because we'll test your editing now, Ed, because the sirens are playing in the background. I can hear the sirens going through. So speaking of sirens, right, we need the Twitter police out. We need the ex-police out. I've got a beef. Who is this person purporting to be inside Newport County, in the know journalist, BTEC level 2, Nick Cross on X? My goodness, right? We can all see you for what you are, you massive shit stirrer. And also, on top of that, we can see you making extra accounts to reply to yourself. I know it's the summer holidays, Nick. I know you haven't got anything to do, but just cut it out, old son. I'm sick of it. That's my beef. I haven't got any positivity.
Get back to Minecraft. It won't play itself. Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you, Jack. Ian, shout outs or beefs?
Well, firstly, who cares? Who cares? When
does.
I appreciate that we're on social media, but let's be honest about it. When social media came out, My first thought when my mate was on it was, this is just the bizarre and banal wittering of idiots, right? And that's all it is. And we're all part of it, right? Just everyone, who's getting worried about a 14-year-old making, don't worry about it. Just ignore it. It's pointless. It's absolutely pointless. So I don't care about that. My beef is far more serious, and it is, and I'm going to try and make sure this time is the only time I say this, because I was going to say it on the train down for the Rochdale game. I'm saving it for now. If I wanted early morning and bloody kickoffs all over the show, I'd go and support a Premier League team, right? I support a Division 4 team. Saturdays should be 3 o'clock. Tuesdays should be 7:30. I'll give you 7:45 at a push. That's it. No 12:30 kickoffs, right? Well, poor Rochdale fans. It's ridiculous. The only people who want to watch that first game are Rochdale Newport fans. And we're making people get up at the crack of dawn. They can't come down and have a pre-match beer. The whole thing's an absolute shambles. They've just moved the Cheltenham game, so I can't come to that now. I usually like to come down to the Cheltenham match. I can't do it. It absolutely boils a part of my anatomy that I don't want to say on it. It really, really, really does. And you get to the point, I genuinely get to the point, I want to go to that game. I can't go anymore because they moved the thing. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I cannot bear it. It needs to stop. I don't care about Sky Sports. They can all get in the sea as far as I'm concerned. 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, 7:30 or 7:45 on a Tuesday night. That's it. Forget about it. If you want to get up at 2 a.m. to travel to somewhere to watch a game, go in the Premier League.
I couldn't agree more. Would it make you feel any better if I said it was Chesterfield that we've moved to a Friday night, not Cheltenham?
We've moved Cheltenham to an early kick-off on the Saturday. So it was 3 o'clock.
Okay.
We've now moved it to 12 o'clock or whatever. So
I saw we moved Swindon. I saw that one.
We've moved Swindon. That'll be police. And and again, Chesterfield. I mean, the poor Chesterfield. They had it last year. They had to come down on a Friday night. It's ridiculous. Stop it.
Can I cheer you up even more, Ian?
Go on.
I've got another beef. News coming in from the Cymru Premier. They've just adopted VAR.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Can
that
you
was
believe
absolutely
it?
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I mean, I'm saying this now publicly, not that anybody listens to us in any shape, way, or form. When VAR comes into Division 4, that's it for me. I'm not having early morning kickoffs and VAR. That's the end for me. I'm telling you now.
Let us finish on a positive note, because my shout out, and we haven't done it for a little while, is to all of the wonderful, lovely people who throw a couple of quid into the pot every month via our Ko-Fi. So in no particular order, well, say no particular order, actually, I'll put the first few at the start, because they are particular friends of the pod. Hamid Baladabadi, Daniel Harini, Alan Cooper, Blair Enio, Fab, John Watkins, Joe, Jack, Dr. Bad Vibe, Billy Punk, Taff, Anthony Evans, Josh, Mark Williams, Jason, the Governor, Hoyligan, Surrey Exile, and Lyndon Young. Thank you all for throwing a couple of quid a month into our Ko-Fi. You are princes amongst men. And if anyone else listening would like to do the same, 2 quid a month, it makes all the difference. We really appreciate it. So you can find a link in the show notes. I believe, gentlemen, that is it. I would like to thank you, Ian and Jack, for your time this evening.
Pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
We will be back soon with the season preview pod.
Only if we can work out when we're going to do it.
Well, I'm off on my holiday, so I'm leaving Ian in charge of setting up the time for the season preview pod. So if it doesn't happen, listeners, you'll know who to blame. But Ian, Jack, and the gang will be back with the season preview, hopefully before too long. I believe Jamie is making the trip to Wimbledon for the League Cup game, so you'll doubtless hear from him. A few of us will be at the Roma match on Tuesday. Come and have a chat if you see us. But until then, listeners, look after yourselves, look after each other, and most importantly of all, as always, keep it county.